Welcome to episode 567 of Salsidoparanormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I am talking about haunted places in the U.S. As always, you can find all episodes along with links to social media and other ways to contact me at the podcast page, and that is salsidoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions or stories of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust. Happy to either read those or have you join me on the show to talk about them. Thank you all for listening, whether you are here for the live streams on Discord or if you listen to the podcast or YouTube feeds or on the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP, Digital Broadcasting. There you can hear replays of 2 episodes of the show every night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right before Troubled Minds Radio comes on. As always, I want to thank Michael Strange, host of Troubled Minds Radio, for putting my shows up on the network and having me there. And if you'd like to support the show, there are some different ways to do that. You can always share the show with others and rate and review it on your favorite podcast platforms. You can sign up for the Patreon page, where you'll get 1 extra episode of the show every month. You can also find books I've written over on Amazon, paranormal fiction and nonfiction. Or you can just make one-time donations through PayPal. Support is never expected, but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows, from equipment to software in some cases, to research materials, to travel expenses in some cases. So, and yeah, some months are sort of better than others, and so any help is always appreciated. I think that takes care of all that. So we're to the last place I'm going to talk about, from Alabama. I have a feeling this is going to take up the whole show, but if not, I do have everything for the first locations in Alaska already ready to go as well. So we'll see how this goes. So this, of course, we did cover this before, but I found an article that I hadn't found before that's really long. So I think it'll be a good size show here with just this material again. And this is, of course, the University of Montebello in the town of that same name. According to the AI here that we find these places, says several buildings on campus, including the King House and the main hall, are said to be haunted by various ghosts. So this first article I found here is from ShelbyCountyReporter.com. And I love when I'm able to find these accounts here, or these articles here, from websites that are not primarily focused on the paranormal. So it talks about here the librarian, and again, also I forgot to mention, whenever it comes to these locations, please make sure that you check on what's allowed and what's not, if you can visit places or not. All these things can change over time, and I never recommend trespassing for a lot of reasons there. So do your own research if you're interested in these places that we talk about in these shows before you go there, and that way that'll be best for everyone. So let me see here. This first article talks about a tour. Says the let me see here. Okay. So the title of this article is "The Ghost That Haunt Montebello" published. Oh, I'm sorry, Montebello. That has the date published on Monday, June 13th, 2011. So this is a little bit older now. So, like I said, definitely check things out if you ever want to go to these places. But the article talks about a librarian there, Kathy. Her name was Kathy. Tells the ghost stories of the university in the King's Family Cemetery on campus. So apparently there is a lot of ghost lore at this university, Montebello, which has been passed between students and residents of the area for years. And so some of this was shared during a ghost walk on the university's campus. And so let's see here. It talks about this website, and it has a free newsletter. But Kathy says was the new director of the Carmichael Library, and she led a walk around the campus telling the stories of the university's most infamous spirits. Says she was a reference librarian, and people would ask all the time about the ghosts, she said there in the article. And so they decided stories had to be set straight, and so they decided to set up the tours. The main ghost stories come from the King House, main dorms, and the King House Cemetery. It says the first stop on the tour involved the main dorm. And this is one of those things that you find in places. There's sometimes the tragic stories, they're not just legends. And this is one of those cases where a student that lived in the main dorm in 1908 accidentally caused a fire with a couple other students there. And and then, of course, she ended up passing from it. Excuse me. One moment, please. Sorry about that. Getting back to the material here. Also, of course, I always include these articles in the episode descriptions as well. So after she passed, apparitions started being seen in this hall. The ghost stories began not long after that happened. Like I said, according to Kathy there. There were girls that started reporting hearing screaming and moaning in the hall, and the wooden door of the dorm room of the student that passed away, you could see supposedly her face, eyes, nose, and mouth with flames. And apparently this must have been a real thing that people claim to see, because they had to put the door away because it was such a curiosity. So people were just coming to see it, and even though they didn't have any business necessarily being in the area. So the second most famous apparition at the university there in Montebello is Edmund King, and he's the man who built the King House in 1823, and it's located in the on campus there, and was considered a large house in its time, with glass windows and 2 stories. So Kathy describes the wanderings of Edmund King in King House as reported by students there. So let's see here. Apparently, King and his wife had 10 children, and he was alive when the Civil War started, and maintained a fruit orchard behind his house. Kathy said that King would wander the grounds and the King family cemetery and the orchard. And she says that he would wander and carry a shovel and a lantern. And after he had passed, there were stories of lights that shine at night. That's when those stories began. People say they see lights and the curtains of the house move. They say he's looking for the money that he and silver they buried in his fruit orchard. And to this day, he's seen with a lantern. So that's that first article. Plenty there. And so, yeah, that's always neat when places sort of, at least to some degree, accept their and are willing to talk about their what's going on there in terms of the paranormal. So I'm glad that was done. I don't know if the current people that run the place are the same way, but because you never know, different people will show up and places change hands and all that, and policies can change. So, but at least at that time, that was being done. The second article is the longer one, and this is from hauntedhouses.com. And says adult spirits seemingly or strongly care about the students. And so this is, like I said, a good-sized article here. The first section it has is a description, and it says the University of Montebello is spread out across 160-acre main campus surrounded by lawns and tree groves and flower beds. There are 28 campus buildings as of the time of this website article being posted that are listed on the National Register of Historic Places. And the university is a high-quality, small liberal arts college with a student body of, at the time, again, about 3,000 students. It says many beautiful buildings, both old and new, house the students and the 4 colleges, because there's different parts to the college. Excuse me. And their support staff, as well as classrooms and administration and libraries and everything else needed for the university. So, says that there's 4 colleges that make up the University of Montebello. And they're all, again, in that same vein. So the history of the location, the land where the college now is at, has a history of its own. Before the very beginning of the present college. So Edmund King moved to this area in the 1820s with his wife and son, and so basically made a homestead on top of a hill. And he lived there with the neighboring Indians, the Native Americans, who still occupied the land, and he named his home Mansion House, which of course later, that's still sometimes used as a name for the place, but it's either Mansion House or the King House. Now, it's considered one of the, let's see here, it was considered one of the best mansions in the county, possibly the state of Alabama. And his family and his money were 2 very important things to him. It says that over time, more people developed the area. During the Civil War, there was an existing building that was turned into a Confederate hospital that held who knows how many people. Let me see here. I think I lost my spot. I did. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. So it held a Confederate hospital, which is now known as Reynolds Hall. I'm sorry. But as the area became a rest and regroup stop, and when the area became a rest and regroup stop for Confederate forces, there were supposedly underground tunnels constructed in the area as a safer way for people to move around. In town, there was the Briarfield Ironworks, where iron was made. And so it goes into a lot of the history here. I think we can probably sort of pass on some of that because we're starting to get close to running out of time. It talks about the different schools that were set up there to begin with. Initially, it was a girls' college, and then other colleges and schools came, and eventually it became the four that made up the current University of Montebello. So, and then it talks about how the different manifestations of activity there. It says that many entities have made their home out of the university, and all are basically well behaved, according to the article here. So there's a theater building, Reynolds Hall. There's a theater building where students study and practice their craft. And there are two stories, and there are theories as to why a Captain Henry Clay Reynolds is haunting the area named for him. Of course, and this happens with locations, is you'll get multiple stories about the source of the activity and why and all that. One story says that during the Civil War, Reynolds was given the duty of providing security for the sick and injured men at this Confederate hospital, which was in this building. But the area was attacked, and he went off to help with the defense. And supposedly, when he got back after the people that had been in the building were found dead. But it doesn't. It does say here in the article that this there is no proof of that, as far as they can tell from the research done in this article here. So, so let's see here. And the other story, let's see here. Lost my spot. Okay, the second story claims that Reynolds wasn't even stationed there at this what would become his hall, which and so again, this mentions that some people say this massacre at this area never even happened. And so, but either way, some people say that no matter what happened in the area, Reynolds is there to protect the area and the people that are there because of whatever happened in the past. So, and then other financial reasons as well. So, but apparently this apparition of this Captain Reynolds is, and this is something that I always wonder how this happens or why this happens. But he's known as he appears with all this blue light. He's basically made of blue light. And he's been seen and heard, and then also his presence has been felt wandering around the building. He also will follow again, supposedly to protect everyone, the students late at night as they move around the campus there. Doors and windows shut by themselves. And in certain areas of the hall, there are cold spots that don't make any sense. And according to the article here, and moving on to the next paragraph here, apparently there was a painting of Captain Reynolds that was taken down at one point in the lobby of Reynolds Hall and replaced by another one. But not long after, it was found back on where it had been at on the wall, and the replacement was found on the floor. So it always makes me wonder about that. Is it the apparition doing that? Also, Logan has decided to climb my chair. This is the first time she's tried to do it before. Anyway, so so that's the end of that the section about that location there. So, but yeah, I always wonder about that, and I feel like I've heard that before about paintings, apparitions, and entities and spirits having feelings about paintings and how they should stay where they are, or that they need to move because they don't like where they're at. So I've heard both ends of that. Let me see here. Moving on to the old main hall. I think we talked about this. Yeah, we talked about this in the last section. So I think I'll skip that one and see if there's what other location it talks about here. And go from there. Because, yeah, okay, here we go. This article has more locations that it talks about, so I like that. The Palmer Hall, it says Palmer Hall. It's named after Thomas Waverley Palmer, and it is a huge building with a 1,100-foot auditorium. Sorry about the noise. And a stage area, and downstairs. So mentions that there's this W.H. Trumbauer was one of the designers of the building, and his name was left off the cornerstone by accident. And people think that's why he's still there, which I guess could be. It's possible. Apparently there was a student practicing on the organ one day, and she had stopped playing for a moment and was getting ready to go home. And she heard a disembodied voice after that asking her to keep playing. And she was alone in the hall at the time, or at least that was as far as she knew. So, let's see here. And apparently this was, when he was alive, this Trumbauer was a major supporter of the annual college night, which was an event where a contest was held to see who could put on the best play, which takes place during the homecoming festivities. And let's see here. So he still gives his opinion now, even though he's passed on. And he basically, let's see here. He lets everyone know what play he thinks is the best by apparently swinging the batons over the performance. I don't know what that is, of his pick during the final dress rehearsal of all the shows in the contest. So, and because he was a perfectionist, his opinion is valued. So, let's see here. Let me see what much left of that. So he's also been known to appear to students as he wanders around the location, the backstage of the location. There are old mirrors there that used to be on the dressing room walls downstairs. It used to be a place to see entities of women dressed in long dresses getting ready for performances a long time ago. So let me see how long this next section is here. Okay, there's only one more here, so we'll just do that and then we'll be done. Basically, that works. Good timing. Hanson Hall, which is a women's residence. And there is a dedicated entity, it says, who was a strict house mother who is still said to be on the job there, watching over the women that stay there. If people are up late at night studying, they feel like they're being watched, like an unseen presence has been patrolling the halls and has come inside the room to check on them. One student even left her mug on her desk, and it mysteriously vanished one day, but then reappeared in the same spot a few weeks later. So that's amazing if that was actually paranormal in nature there. So that's going to do it for that one. I think that's it. That's all the time we really have for today. So hope you all enjoyed that. Thank you all for listening. And looking at the chat here, Ricky says start renovating old houses and see how much activity shows up. Thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all in the next episode of Salsidoparanormal. Take care.